when thinking about Australia's compliance with refugee obligations, we have a mixed record, if you like. We were there at the negotiation of the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees, very involved with the drafting. In fact, we were the 6th country to ratify the treaty, and that ratification brought it into force and made it law. So we played quite an important role there. We did participate as a country of resettlement. I'm not sure that Australia at the time envisaged that it would be a country that was the first country of asylum, the first place where refugees might go. It envisaged that it would be resettling people from displaced persons camps in Europe. And it's not really until the mid-70s, with the fall of Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City as it is now, that Australia started receiving boat people in any great numbers. And at that point, we finally introduced a proper refugee status determination procedure. We received about 2,000 boat people from about 75 to 81. And I think you could say Australia's compliance with its obligations was very good. The second wave of boat people starts around the late 80s, and it's mainly Cambodians who are fleeing the conflict in Cambodia. At this point, at one stage, Prime Minister Bob Hawke made an announcement that the Cambodians were just economic migrants. So we start to see something of a shift in Australia's policies from that time onwards. In the early 90s, basically in response to a court challenge by Cambodians, Australia introduces its mandatory detention policy. And from then on, from my perspective, I think you could say there's been a slide in our treatment of those people who arrive without a visa. We're still fairly generous to people who arrive, somehow manage to make it to Australia lawfully, arrive on a visa. We're not so good with unauthorised arrivals. And we're very good with resettlement still from other places. So Australia is probably second or third on the list of countries that provide resettlement places for people from camps around the world. So as I say, we've got really a mixed history. And from the early 90s with onshore unauthorised arrivals, things go steadily downhill. So we see introduction of temporary protection visas, not much let up in the mandatory detention policy, and eventually, of course, the so-called Pacific solution, where Prime Minister Howard says, I'm not going to let any of the people picked up on the Norwegian freighter, the Tampa, enter Australian territory. We'll be sending boats back to Indonesia and will be taking people to Papua New Guinea or Nauru for processing of their claims, with no guarantees that those people will ever be able to enter Australia. So the current situation is that we won't send people to Nauru or Papua New Guinea, but we'll send them to Christmas Island. And we have this legal fiction that Christmas Island is not part of the quote-unquote migration zone in Australia. And that means people can't apply for a visa as of right. It's totally discretionary, and we're applying a different processing system to those people who've been put on Christmas Island as compared with those people who've arrived on a visa and then claimed refugee status. So the people on Christmas Island don't have full access to the courts, for example. And so we are discriminating against those people and offering them a different kind of processing, as well as keeping them in detention still. Australia is certainly meeting the very bottom line, the most basic and undoubtedly most important obligation to refugees, and that is known as the obligation of non-refoulement. We use the French term, not to return a person to a place of persecution. So even though we stick people on Christmas Island and there's a lot of uncertainty and it's a kind of discretionary process and they're in detention, we're certainly not returning them to a place of persecution. So we're meeting that bottom line. But refugees and people who have yet to have their status determined, asylum seekers, also have right to liberty and freedom of movement. And Australia's mandatory detention policy has been continually criticised. at the Human Rights Committee that supervises the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Australia's been found to be in violation of that treaty on a number of fronts. First of all, for arbitrarily detaining people, for violating their liberty, and in some cases, tragically, for violating the prohibition on inhumane or degrading treatment because of the mental illnesses that are often either created or exacerbated by long periods in detention. I think refugee issues become a particularly hot button issue in Australia, largely as a result of wedge politics. It serves political parties' interests sometimes to focus on this group of people and to whip up a panic about it. And it can be quite convenient. It can look as though the government's protecting Australian citizens by making secure borders, and that distracts attention away from things like what are we doing about climate change, or other issues, education, health, other issues that might be important to the Australian public. I think it's a kind of law and order sort of issue, a bit like crime. And, crime's mainly the province of state government, so for the federal government to be able to focus on immigration and unauthorised arrivals gives them a kind of law and order platform as well. Well, right now, I think we shouldn't be freezing people's claims. We should just be getting on with refugee status determination as usual. If there is in fact change in country of origin information, we should just let that flow through the decision making. There's really no reason to cause huge headaches for ourselves at the end of the day by causing big backlogs, which is what's going to happen, I think, with this freeze. So that's one thing we could do immediately. I would like to see the detention values actually acted upon. So these detention values are that we will assess, we'll have some initial identity and health checks, and then we'll assess whether in fact a person is a risk to the Australian community in terms of absconding and so on. And we should implement that and get on with having more people released into the community while their claims are being heard. So we should be doing that. We should repeal the legislation that underpins the Pacific solution, get rid of this idea that Christmas Island is not really part of Australia for migration purposes. And there should be an education campaign about why it is that people end up making it all the way to Australia. And instead of just putting out these arguments that it's pull factors, which is what the opposition's been doing a lot of recently, they've been arguing it's because we're seen as a soft target, we have humane procedures, it's our economy and so on. The real situation for people in refugee camps around the world should be focused upon. Research like that done by Human Rights Watch not that long ago showed that the reason people moved on to a place like Australia is they're often stuck in a country that is not party to the Refugee Convention, so you're uncertain about whether you might be returned to a place of persecution, and nor will that country be respecting your other human rights. You might be placed in detention, you might not be able to work and support yourself, and at some point, logically, if you can, you might well pay a people smuggler to make it to Australia. So I think there ought to be education about why people actually come to Australia instead of just saying, oh, it must be pull factors, when I think there are actually some push factors going on there. We could probably offer more resettlement places. I mean, there must be things we can do about eliminating the market for people smugglers. One thing I would agree on with politicians is that, for people to use people smugglers is not a great thing to be happening. It's a very dangerous thing. It's often quite extortionate. It subjects people to risks of exploitation, sexual exploitation. The line between people smuggling and human trafficking, it may be quite a thin one. Can we work on somehow eliminating the market for people smugglers by offering more resettlement places, for example? Currently, UNHCR puts the number of resettlement places offered for the refugee population, which is a total of about 15 or 16 million, as being at 1%, which is just a really incredibly tiny percentage. And there are very few countries that are participating in refugee resettlement, even developed countries. So the world needs to look at that a bit more seriously.